It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday.
There was an opportunity that most people don't know, that the last company that owned it when I was there, and I really don't remember the name of the company, they had bought another signal. And it was a big rumor they were gonna put Power 1490 on FM. And obviously all those 1490 guys was hoping for it because you understand, the only other station in the building is Cloud.
The company buys an FM signal, a brand new signal. It was a blank slate. They could do whatever they wanted with. They didn't have to change the format or fire people, it was empty. And we thought, wow, Power 104, how cool would that sound? Nah, they made it the Hog. They made it a classic rock station.
There's a new sound in the desert. It's the sound of adventure, the sound of excitement, the sound of classic rock and roll. It's the sound of 104.1 KKHG, The Hog. So get on The Hog for Mark and Brian in the morning, classic rock all day, and a chance to win a Harley of your very own. You're in for one wild ride. 104.1 KKHG, Tucson's classic rock.
I thought that was unfair. Not only did they not switch it over to 104, but they got a nicer studio, if I remember correctly.
Talk about an ego blow. You know, I mean, this close to being, you know, one of the biggest stations in the country. If we could have only made that FM jump, but it wasn't in the cards.
It kind of signified that they didn't understand what they had, because reality is, if they would have put Power 1490 on that stick, when they had the opportunity, Power 1490 may not have been called 1490 anymore, it's still been Power, would still be here. Because that station that we had is in every state in the world. Every city has a version of Power. So in hindsight, they fucked up, big time.
Last year, Power 1490 was really kind of sad because you could kind of see the writing on the wall. What I remember about the last year of Power 1490 was starting to understand radio. I started to understand that it was a business. I started to understand that people get fired.
So about a year out, less than a year out, they let about half the staff go. It was bare bones. It was like 3 of us.
Little by little, they started, cutting back. Okay, they cut back this air shift and then this air shift. And at one point, there was, I think, 3 of us on air weekends, and you could tell that it was just, the end of it.
I wasn't maybe doing 1 shift a week or 2 shifts, maybe every 2 weeks, just filling in, doing board op. And talking to Slick, he kind of let me know that you're not officially a radio station DJ until you've been fired a few times. So I actually got fired over the phone. MC Boogity called me and told me that my services were no longer rendered, so needed her. So that was pretty much it.
3 months before we were all let go, I could feel the end was coming. People were being let go from the station, budgets were being cut, we had 0 promotions, and the excitement at the radio station from inside our building, I could see it going like that. And I think we all knew it was coming.
They had introduced a computer to the studio. In 1995, a computer. Wow, that's high tech. And they put the computer in the studio, and it sat there for weeks before it was ever turned on. It was just a monitor. And I remember Brett the Man coming in the studio. Brett could be very negative at a lot of times. He came in the studio and looked at that and said, "That's the end of our job. We're fucked. We're over. That's it. We're all getting replaced by the computer." And I'm 17 years old. I'm like crying. Like, what do you mean? And he was right. He was absolutely correct.
Slick and I actually did get to say goodbye because 10 minutes before the show ended, Boogie D came in and said, whatever his name was, Alan or whoever was the ops manager at the time, wants to see you in his office in 10 minutes. And I looked at Slick, and Slick looked at me, and I went, "Oh no, we're getting fired." And he goes, "Oh yeah." And the last break on the air, Slick said, "All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow, unless we get fired." So, and I'm like, "Yep, peace out." And I want to say I have a tape of that. And 10 minutes later, we were being escorted out of the building.
Here comes the word called delete, the first version of, as I remembered, of voice tracking, which is like, for us on-air personalities, a kiss of death. So first thing they did was introduce the delete system, which was a voice tracking system. So they made me slim down the staff, so everybody would voice track. I think I was doing some ungodly shift. I think it was like 3 of us that left at the time. Morning show, Keith, me.
When we had the power crew there, we had each other, and that made it okay. So yeah, we didn't get paid, and we didn't, we didn't have the big things to give away, but man, we were a family and we stuck together. And just towards the end, there just wasn't any family around. So it went from being a passion to being a job. And that was the hard part, and that's when I decided it was time to get out.
And then when the end came, it was just on a sad day with some guy named Curly, who I don't like, because Curly, to me, came in to work on the morning show, and then kind of became the guy that was entrusted of eliminating our jobs, because he was in the back room editing all this alternative music. And we come in one day and they're playing some song called Pushing Up the Daisies or some bullshit like that. And I get called upstairs and it's like, yo, we're gonna flip the format.
The powers that be at the time, operations manager Alan Hammerl came to me and said we want to flip 1490 to an alternative format. And you got to think back, okay, grunge is like the big deal at that time. So really alternative stations are popping up all over the country. They saw an opportunity, I believe, with 1490 to flip that so it would help the hog and force KLPX to go into this either more modern place or maybe flip the Echo, which was later became KFMA. They were trying to do something to manipulate that and obviously make it a better combo so you could go out and sell it when you have Mix FM and the classic rock stations. It would be much more palatable, if you will, if you were to package it.
Downside of Power 1490 was the ratings showed a strong audience under the age of 18 or 21. Advertisers still to this day want to buy the 2554 demo. That's what's called the money demo. It used to be 30 years ago, it was 18 to 49. But the nation's growing a little older, so now it's 2554. So you get below that 25 and below cutoff down there, there's not a lot of money.
And that was honestly 1490's biggest problem was you couldn't sell the station. You know, it had great listenership, but how do you sell teenagers? You couldn't sell it at that time.
Even to this day, hip hop and rhythmic are an extremely difficult format to sell to advertisers. Right or wrong, good or bad, most advertisers don't want to be involved with that type of format.
So they came to me, they knew that I knew a lot of the music, they knew that I was passionate about alternative music. The one thing that I, at that time, as a kid, really, I didn't understand was, you know, all these guys that I became friends with, I'm basically going to feel like I'm backstabbing. Well, they set up a computer system in my apartment, which was a few blocks away from the radio station, and they gave me money to go out and buy CDs. I had a good chunk of the music, but I was loading stuff in my house or my apartment and scheduling the music and getting it all prepared and working with consultants and anyone else that was involved, with Alan and really, it was a covert operation. It was the weirdest thing, and that made me feel even more uncomfortable because it was definitely sneaking behind everybody's backs.
What can you say about the last day at Power 1490? You would think, after putting all your effort into a radio station, and they were going to let you go, they would call you in and say, guys, great job, shake your hand, thank you for everything you did. If you need help with anything, let us know.
They called me in, and MC Boogedy called me and said, hey man, we got a meeting. 3 o'clock, I don't know what time, 4 maybe. And I met in the office. It was me, Boogedy, Chris Kerr, Gary the Sandman.
We knew what was gonna happen. We knew we were getting the axe. But instead of saying, great job, guys, some guy who I can't even remember who it was, some nitwit, gave us a sheet of paper and it said,
this is the business, and thanks for your work, and we're making a change. Bye-bye now.
And I remember I crumbled it up and I threw it straight down on the ground. I crumbled up the paper and threw it down.
It's kind of like a haze to me. I remember going to lunch, I remember coming back, I remember going upstairs and having a meeting, and it was told that they were flipping the format. I came downstairs and there was a sign over the 1490 placard, and it was a whole nother format.
And I remember going to my car and turning on the radio station and wondering, oh my God, what are they gonna do? And exactly at 5 p.m., The last song on Power 1490 ended, and that was Boys to Men. It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday. And after that, it was a song about daisies.
Push the little daisies and make them come up. Push the little daisies and make them come up. Push the little daisies and make them come up. Push the little daisies and make them come up.
The most annoying nails on chalkboard song imaginable. And they played it over and over and over and over again.
Push the little daisies and make them come up. Push the little daisies and make them come up.
So my show, the mix at 5 o'clock traffic jam was scheduled to start at 5. My wife and I are driving around Tucson, and it's an AM station, so it didn't necessarily come in very clear all the time. Sometimes you'd get stuff floating through the signal. So we're driving around, I turn on the show just to make sure they got the tapes okay and the show's going on okay, and I hear some kind of weird, the daisies go pop, this weird looping.
Push the little daisies and make them come up. Push the little daisies and make them come up.
I'm like, okay, I'm trying to dial my dial-in. I'm like, what's going on? I had a big brick cell phone at the time. My wife's calling the radio station, the control room, hotlining it. Hey, is everything okay down there? And no one's answering that we know. It's corporate people answering the phone and honestly being rude to my wife.
Well, the song Push the Little Daisies had come out, I think, a couple years prior to this, or maybe a year or so. And they just felt that this was the most annoying song on the planet. And this is one, the consultant, Tom Barnes, he was the guy that came up with the idea, so you should play this song over and over again. So that was, the concept was this will drive all the cume away. It'll tell everyone that there is no more hip hop. This is how we'll do it.
And to go from R&B and hip hop to hard rock, that, you know, not a knock against hard rock, but I mean, you know, you understand what I'm saying? Get the picture there. That's the way we kind of took it, like, you know what I mean? Like here, you know. So that's probably how the neighborhoods felt. Every neighborhood around here.
And you know, at the time, I think we had different drops playing in between that too, and I think it said "The End Is Coming." I think that might have been one of the drops that played.
1490, your real music alternative to that crummy, modern rock, lousy, rotten top 40.
The End, Tucson's new rock alternative.
Actually, I remember me and my friends still trying to find the station the day after it went on.
And meanwhile, we're playing this insane song over and over again for the next 24 hours. There are angry phone calls. I think they were worried about people coming by and actually committing some acts of violence on the station because we took it off the air.
It was kind of like, what the heck is going on here?
There were a lot of phone calls of, you effing suck, how dare you, you know, you got all the angry callers calling in that, you know, they wanted to really, for me, from my perspective, I thought they wanted to kill me.
What the hell are they doing, you know what I mean? They don't want us to have a station. That station felt like it belonged to, like when I say us, I mean the people in the kids in the neighborhoods, you know what I mean? Not the kids that's living up in the foothills, people living in the foothills. It felt like that station belonged to us, so it felt like somebody came in and actually took something from you. You know what I mean?
The day power turned off, I wasn't there. I was actually at a different job, but I remember getting calls from a lot of friends. That stupid little ween pushed the daisies and watched them come up. That still haunts me.
Push the little daisies and make them come up.
But people called me, and all I had to do was listen to the station for 5 minutes, and I knew that it was gone.
Push the little daisies and make them come up.
That was a shock. I mean, 1490 is my first radio station. I don't even understand, at that point, I didn't understand what it meant to flip format. I just assumed a radio station is what it is and it stays that way forever. I never understood that radio stations change.
I was getting calls the minute it happened, even in Los Angeles, I assure you. And the people in the industry always associated me with that. And I remember all the calls from record label people and other radio folks who wanted to call and talk to me about it, and what do you think, and what do you feel, and really, I mean, the reality is it's sadness. It's like, I certainly won't compare it to losing a child or anything like that. Maybe closer to losing a pet. How's that?
In some cases, when you flip the switch on a station, you should be really excited. It was kind of hard to get excited about something when there was a lot of pain and drama behind the scenes. I felt like we were good with some people. Some people understood it. Others, I think, had a harder time processing it.
Part of me died when that station died. When I left that radio station, that was the end for me. So So that was a sad day.
It hurt, and it hurt for the people. And you know, I really learned that. I learned perspective as I got older, that it was really about people. It wasn't about the physical building. It wasn't about call letters. It wasn't about what company. It was about people. And my initial thoughts and my sympathy went out to all the people that had put so much effort and time and care and the old blood, sweat, and tears into that radio station, and to kind of unceremoniously come to an end like that, it was sad. It hurt.
The thing that I was upset about the most, and don't get me wrong, I was thankful to have the opportunity, but the thing I was upset about the most is we never got a chance to say goodbye to our listeners. And this was a day before Twitter and MySpace and blogs, and this was a day before DJs had their own websites. When a radio station changes format now, half the people know about it beforehand. You've got DJs blogging about it. You go to their Facebook page, and it would have said, well, Power 1490 is going away. We miss working with you. Sorry, the company didn't even let us say goodbye. You know, see you next time. But we didn't have that.
You know, some people said you should have just said something at the time, but I didn't know. You know, it was your first time being told, here, they're going to give you a station. Nobody tells you what to do. There's no instruction manual as to how to go about that.
It was unfortunate because I think the staff was mistreated. It was beyond what you would consider a respectful exit. You know, the staff was just mistreated, and I think our listeners were very mistreated. You know, probably the most loyal listenership I've ever been involved in, ever, in radio. They were just tossed to the curb with no explanation.
Even till today, the mystery of what happened to Power 1490 still exists. I'm hoping that this documentary answers the questions that so many people had. Power 1490 touched so many people, and it was part of so many people's youth growing up like a best friend, and to be just yanked from their life with no explanation whatsoever was just not cool. So we never got to say goodbye, so I kind of look at this little piece as a way to say goodbye and thank you. We loved you, and we couldn't do it without you, and we appreciated it, and you guys were part of our family, and we will never forget Power 1490.